Imagine being so afraid of losing power that you swallow your own children. Not metaphorically, literally. And no, I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean, he literally swallowed them. This is the brutal, shocking heart of the myth we're exploring today. A choice born from sheer terror that would send shockwaves through the cosmos and really set the stage for everything we know about Greek mythology. So let's unravel this dark, twisted piece of history. You know, before Zeus, before any of the Olympians you've heard of, there was Kronos. He was the top dog, the supreme ruler. The entire universe was literally at his feet. But for all that power, for everything he controlled, Kronos was ruled by one single gnawing fear, a terror that completely poisoned his reign and drove him to do something so unthinkable, it's hard to even wrap your head around it. So to really get why he was so paranoid, we have to go back to how he got the throne in the first place. It's a story that starts, as so many of these do, with a tyrant, a rebellion, and a prophecy that basically sealed his fate before he even had a chance. Now, these beings, the Titans, they weren't just gods. They were the primordial forces of the universe. And their king, Kronos, was the son of the sky itself, Uranos, and the earth mother, Gaia. But here's the thing. He wasn't born a king. He was born a prisoner, and he learned very early on that power always fears whatever is coming next. You see, his own father, Uranos, was so terrified of his children's potential that he imprisoned them inside their mother's body. Can you imagine the torment? So, in her agony, Gaia creates the sickle and asks her children, "Who among you is brave enough to rise up?" And only one stepped forward, Kronos. He ambushed his father, took him down, and seized the throne. But that victory, well, it came with a terrible, terrible price. Those were his father's dying words, a curse. A prophecy that became like a poison, just seeping into every single moment of Kronos' victory. It was the seed of the monster that he was about to become. And just like that, the great liberator became the great tyrant. The reign that he built on courage was now held together by sheer cowardice. It's a timeless story, right? How the fear of being replaced can poison even the strongest ruler. Kronos, king of the entire cosmos, was completely and utterly terrified of his own unborn children. He and his queen, who was also his sister, Rhea, they had 5 children, 5 divine heirs, and in his mind, 5 potential threats to his throne. And so in his madness, Kronos came up with this horrifying solution. He thought, if I can just contain them, if I can contain the future itself inside of me, then the prophecy can never happen. So the moment each child was born, he snatched them from Rhea and swallowed them whole. Hestia, the future goddess of the hearth, swallowed. Demeter, who would one day command the harvest, swallowed. Hera, destined to be queen of the gods, swallowed. Hades, the eventual ruler of the underworld, swallowed. And Poseidon, master of the seas, swallowed. Just think about that for a second. They weren't dead. They were imprisoned in the belly of their own father, fully grown, completely aware, just existing in an endless living tomb. This was the kingdom that Kronos built on fear. But a mother's grief, that is a powerful, powerful force. Rhea, absolutely heartbroken after losing 5 children, was pregnant for a 6th time, and she decided no, not this time. This child would not be a prisoner. She was ready to fight back. So, on the advice of her own mother, Gaia, Rhea fled to a hidden cave to give birth to a boy. She named him Zeus. Then she went back to Kronos, but not with her son. She handed him a large stone, all wrapped up in baby blankets. And Kronos, in his arrogant paranoia, so obsessed with the prophecy, he didn't even bother to look. He just swallowed the rock whole, thinking he had, once again, secured his reign. And so, while Kronos sat on his throne, feeling perfectly safe, the instrument of his doom was growing up in secret, raised on a remote island, protected and getting stronger, just waiting for the day he would finally face the father he'd never even met. Well, the years went by, and Zeus grew into a powerful young god. The time had finally come. It was time to free his brothers and sisters and challenge the monster sitting on the throne. Fate, the very thing Kronos had tried so desperately to cheat, was now knocking on his door. Zeus, in disguise, managed to serve his father a special drink, a potion from Gaia. Kronos drank it down, and that horrible process began to reverse itself. First, up came the stone. And then, one by one, out came his children, Poseidon, Hades, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia. But they weren't helpless babies anymore. They were fully grown, powerful gods, and they were filled with an unbelievable rage. What happened next was the Titanomachy, a 10-year war that literally tore the cosmos apart. The 6 siblings, they united against their father and the old gods. Zeus even freed more of his monstrous uncles from their prisons, the Cyclops, who forged his legendary lightning bolts, and the 100-handed ones who could hurl entire mountains. The Titans, they didn't stand a chance, and at long last, Kronos himself was overthrown. Just as his father had screamed all those years ago, Kronos was defeated by his own child. Every single monstrous thing he did to try and stop his fate ended up being the very thing that guaranteed it. And that, right there, is the terrifying lesson of Kronos. His desperate fight against destiny was the path to his destiny. In his effort to hold on to power, he became the very monster he was afraid his own son would be. He was thrown into Tartarus, the deepest pit in the underworld, his reign over for good. But it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Was his true prison that dark abyss, or was it the inescapable terror that he had carried inside him all along? A fear so powerful, it forced him to consume the very future he was trying to save. Kronos had everything: power, control, the entire universe. And he lost it all. To the one thing he feared most, his own blood. The gods of Greece were not perfect. They were not kind. They were mirrors, held up to human nature. And what they showed us is that no matter how powerful you are, you cannot imprison the future. This has been Lore and Blood. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe, because next time we talk about the woman whose face launched 1,000 ships and the war that burned an entire civilization to the ground. You already know her name. Stay dark.